Stick it to the man, bitch.
Hello and welcome to episode 89 of Chet and John's Reassuringly Finite Gaming Playlist. My name is Chet Roivers. With me as usual is John Denton.
Yeah, tickety talk.
This is what's about to happen. Is two top 10 lists are going to happen. The 10 games John and I have been playing for the past 7 days. Number 10s are the games we've been playing the least, and the number 1s are the games we've been playing the most. That is it, John. Let's do this.
Let's do this. My number 10 is Spelunky, a game that's appeared many times on my list. I've played it once because finally the daily challenge that the PC Spelunky players have been loving is now available on the PlayStation versions as of about an hour before we started recording this podcast. So I jumped on and had a go at the daily challenge and died quite quickly because I'm not very good at Spelunky in the grand scheme of things anyway. If you don't know what the daily challenge is, it is basically, as you know, Spelunky rolls random levels. That's what it does. So this is a roll that's the same for every single person. It's the same level for every single person. So, sorry, same game world, same series of levels. But you can only play it once, and then it's gone forever. So it has leaderboards, and there's a whole big community spawned out of it doing video capture on PC, etc. But I always like the idea because I like Spelunky, but I've played it quite a lot and I don't have time to dedicate to get really good at it. But the idea of just playing it once a day and seeing how far you can get and comparing that to other people on your friends list and stuff is a really cool idea. And I'm just happy it's on the Vita version now. So I'll probably play it. I can see it. I mean, actually getting around to putting it into my daily routine because even I'm no good, so it's never going to last longer than 10 minutes.
That's a really good idea. Has it been done before?
I don't know. I mean, it works really well for this type of game because of the random thing. I mean, there are other games, obviously, with that. The Binding of Isaac, it would work really well when the console version comes out of that. I can't think of any other games that are both random and short. That seems to be the two key things. But yeah, I'm sure someone will tell us that it's in something else.
Well, yeah, just seems like a good fit for that game. Okay, well, my number 10 is a game called A World of Keflings on the Xbox 360. It's the latest part of, I don't know what you want to call it, the Mongolian clusterfuck of an attempt by Microsoft to try and replicate PlayStation Plus. Did you download this? I assume you didn't.
Sorry, I was trying to deal with the fact you just said Mongolian clusterfuck and trying to just go along with that. No, I haven't. I actually forgot about that whole gains for gold thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is best forgotten because this is a bit of an insult. I mean, I thought it was the first one, which was the Kingdom for Keflings, and that came out God knows when. This only came out at the end of 2010, but it looks like hell. It's stuttery and it's washed out and it's just ugly. It's an ugly game. I only really downloaded it and turned it on just to hate on it for a bit and then see what it was and then delete it, and that's what I did. It's a resource management game, and your avatar walking around this world with these little people called Keflings, and you pick up wood and you put it over here and you talk to that little. I mean, it's a game that I wouldn't like at the best of times, and I didn't really play it. I wasn't going to talk about it, but it's been a funny week. So yeah, A World of Keflings. It is an insult of a free game, just because the people that they should be trying to impress are people like me who still pay for Xbox Live and still feel that I'm getting my money's worth. So the fact that I don't know what A World of forget it, bollocks.
Truly. Not that I've played it, but that whole the fact that I forgot about it speaks volumes, I think.
I'm not going to be out of order to the game because I'm sure, by all accounts, it's actually quite good. But I don't like that genre and the presentations. Yeah.
It's tough presentationally at the moment. It's tough for older games. Right, my number 9 is another game on Xbox Live. It's Final Exam on. Did you see this on the Live Arcade?
I didn't. I downloaded it. I didn't play it. I did like the look of it though, but.
Yeah, it's like a side-scrolling 4-player co-op sort of brawler, but it's. I mean, I only played the trial, so we always have to put that caveat in there. But it is not a particularly good game. It's just one of those ones that like, why on earth does this exist? Who's sitting there in a meeting going, do you know what we really need right now? Next gen's just coming around the corner. PC's kicking ass. We really need to make a 2D side-on Left 4 Dead clone with zombies that look like the lickers from Resident Evil 2. Yeah, let's do that right now. Bankrolled. Why is this happening? This game is a game where you play as a guy in an American football helmet. I did anyway. And those monsters come out and you hit them. You can hit them into the air and hit them back down, but the collision detection isn't very good. Towards the end of the trial, you have to press the button to get a door to open, but oh no, the button's not going to work right now. You've got to kill a bunch of monsters first, and then it will work. No original bone in its body. Why does it exist?
It's so annoying because I saw them. I thought, oh, that looks all right, despite the fact that I've played so many side-scrolling beat-em-ups on Xbox Live Arcade this year. I don't need another one. Charlie Murder was good. The other one, what the hell was it called? Fair Play?
Foul Play.
Foul Play, of course. That wasn't bad, but yeah, it just seems to be the go-to genre. It's like first-person shooters on the PC. They just churn them out.
Yeah. But those two games, those two games had a lot of personality. I haven't played them really, but they had their own unique. This is just nothing. I guess you could say it's nodding towards. No, it's not. I was going to say it's nodding towards like crap 80s action movies from the video store, but it's not really. The cover kind of is, but the game is just a collection of gameplay tropes from the last 10 years crammed into something really unambitious. That was the worst thing about it, because it wasn't awful to play. Like, it wasn't. Hitting the things felt fine. It didn't look that bad. The lighting was okay for what it was, but it was so unambitious that it just made me feel sleepy.
Well, I kind of knew that, but I think it was something about the blurb and the cover, and I thought, oh, that seems like it's aimed at me, and maybe I'll enjoy it. Yeah, but okay. Well, bollocks to that then.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I didn't play the full game, and like I said, it wasn't actually too bad to play. But coming out right now, why?
Yeah, that's the problem. Well, that's what trials are for. I
True.
may still have a look at it because I did download it, but okay. One less thing to worry about. Okay, all right. Well, my number 9 is a game called Homeless on the Xbox 360. It is an indie game, and it's not the latest release from Silver Dollar Games because they haven't brought out a game in a week or so, but it's an old game of theirs, and it's one that I'd heard some quite kind things about. It's actually really rather good, but again, its status as a game is quite negligible, and I think that's when when their detractors get the most wound up, it's when they release games that don't really qualify as games. But it's a really interesting thing. You play as a homeless guy on the street, and he sits at the centre of the screen, and people walk past him, and all of the people in the street have numbers above their heads. So the idea is to press A when the most money is in this small area around this homeless guy in the middle. Right. It's a very simple game, but the whole time there's a monologue. And it's just a homeless guy talking about his life, stuff that's happened to him. And it's fascinating for a million reasons, but primarily because the game lasts about 15 minutes or so, 10, 15 minutes. And when you're listening to this homeless person speak, there were 4 or 5 occasions where I was like, is this actually a real homeless guy talking about his life? Because the voice acting was so good, and because what he's talking about is actually quite compelling occasionally. But it flips between me thinking, is this real, and the actor's delivery, and I'm sure it's an actor now. He sounds like a real person, and then other times he sounds like. Do you remember in the American version of The Office when Michael Scott did his Chris Rock impression?
Oh my God! Yeah, vaguely. Yeah.
What's it supposed to do? I mean, the guy literally sounds like that. So the whole time you're thinking, is this real? Is it fake? It's actually reasonably well written as well, and it's interesting. It's very sad and very downbeat for a video game, and it's a little bit jarring as well because every time you press A, he stops what he's saying, says change if you can spare it, whatever you can. He talks to the people in the street, which. After 10 minutes of listening to a story, you kind of want to stop pressing the button to stop breaking the story up. But if you do that, then the game ends. It's really interesting. It's another one of their games that I think, because people don't want anything to do with Xbox Live indie games. If this appeared on PC, I think people would be a little bit more interested in it. It is interesting. It was 69p or 65p, I think. And yeah, I enjoyed it. 10, 15 minutes. It's interesting, fascinating, I suppose. It's good. But is it a game? I don't know. You could. Like a lot of their stuff, you could control it on a DVD remote with one button.
It's still a game.
I liked it anyway.
That sounds cool. I do agree that some of those things would probably work on PC, maybe with a slightly different visual style.
It's funny. It's something about that space people just pay no attention to at all.
Okay, complete change of tack for my number 8. It's Soul Calibur 2 HD, which appeared today on, as well, day of recording, on Xbox Live Arcade as well. I think it's on PSN as well. I don't think I played much Soul Calibur 2. I played a hell of a lot of the first one, a hell of a lot of the third one, but didn't play much 2. But I mean, take it or leave it. It's pretty much exactly the same as far as I can work out. It's a good version, and it looks nice. You can tell it's kind of dated in some ways, but the HD respray or whatever you want to call it, it looks decent. And in the trial, you get to play as my boy Mitsurugi, smash a few people up in the arcade mode. His moves still work, obviously, because they've worked since, and they worked before this game. And I definitely prefer the older Caliburs to the more recent ones when they've included like the critical attacks and whatnot. They're still good, but I definitely preferred the older ones. Again, it's just kind of a tough time for it to come out, because if this came out a year ago, I'd probably buy the full version and play it online and things like that. But I know this console's it's not going to get boxed up, but it's going to kind of get moved to the back and have the HDMI cable disconnected and everything like that. And this is 16 quid, I think. So, I mean, it's just not going to happen right now, which is unfortunate, because there's nothing about it. I mean, Namco have done a bang-up job. There's no two ways about it. Even from the 5 or 6 matches that I played on it, I could tell it was good. It was just as responsive as it should be. It looked nice. There is online. I mean, obviously I couldn't tell if the online works, but given the servers and the online play on 4 and 5, I have no reason to think that it wouldn't work well. And yeah, I mean, old Soul Calibur, I like it. I remember the first time I saw Soul Calibur 1, I walked into a game shop in Guernsey, and it was running on Dreamcast in the shop, and I didn't even know. This was before the internet was a thing, really, and I didn't even really know what a Dreamcast was, I don't think, at that time. And I just saw this game. It just looked like light years ahead of anything else that I'd ever seen. And yeah, and that was when I was massively into fighting games as well. And that series was, I mean, that game is one of my favourite games ever, probably. And yeah, strange that I didn't play much of 2, but still an amazing game. But just tough times. Kind of wish it was just coming out on PS4.
Well, I've been playing it all day, so I'll speak about it in a bit.
Oh, okay.
But my number 8 is Batman Arkham Origins on the Xbox 360. I finished it. I thought I was right at the end. I was 5 minutes from the end where my last save was when I last spoke about it. So I'm glad I finished it. It's a difficult one. I'd still recommend it, but not now and not at full price. The thing that when I turned it on, the patch downloaded, and I forgot that there'd been a patch. Yeah. And the first thing I did is I didn't realise that I was signed in as my brother, who's also been playing it. So I jumped into it. He was on the Bane boss fight, which is itself quite near the end. And the button prompt still didn't work properly. So I thought this patch was to sort of fix up the combat a little bit. I know there was other issues like save files corrupting and all that sort of stuff, but I thought it was to fix the combat. And it's still, I was doing those, you hit him a couple of times and you have to perform a button prompt that just repeatedly did not work. So you can say what you like about the hokey plot and the other technical inadequacies, and there are a fair few, but one of the most important aspects of the game does not work properly. So I find that so difficult to forgive. It's mysterious that it's sort of shipped the way it did. I mean, I know there were time constraints and whatnot, and they had a sort of release date quite early on, but I don't know. It's a solid 6 out of 10 game that I'd recommend to anyone. For 20 quid when there's a lull, but the fact that the fighting doesn't properly work, I mean, it's madness.
It's a funny one because I didn't play the same version as you did, and after that patch, it did sort it out on the PC version for me. I just wasn't having those problems anymore, so I can't really comment on that. I've no doubt that that's definitely the case for you, but yeah, I liked it. It's fine. I'm glad I got it out of the way. If I had to start it now, it just wouldn't happen. But yeah, I liked it. I hope it doesn't go annual or, even biennial with. I know it's going to, but I'm kind of done now. 3's fine.
They worked hard on it. You could tell, and there's things in it that are brilliant. And I kind of, as much as I wouldn't recommend it at full price, I kind of hope that it's made its money back, just so that team can carry on doing and do something else, maybe where the sort of screws aren't as tight as they were on this. But yeah, so just jumping back to earlier in the game and realizing it's a good game. It's a 6 out of 10. And if you get time or you fancy it, pick it up next year. That's what I reckon.
I just don't think that franchise, for want of a less stupid word, can sustain that sort of cycle. It's not. Unless you're a sports game or an online shooter, I just don't think you can sustain that sort of shine.
Probably could if it was Rocksteady. They actually said they're going to do that now?
No, they haven't. But I can see it going that way. But I think that's Warner's biggest franchise, isn't it?
Well, is it? I don't think this is sold as well as they
well,
must
yeah,
have hoped.
I don't know.
We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. It's worth a look. Just slightly frustrating.
Yes. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Talking of frustrating, my number 7 is Pro Evolution Soccer 2014.
Oh yeah.
The patch came out. The patch I've talked about many times, and it took an hour to download, which was a fucking nightmare, to be honest, because I popped it on. There's a 4 meg patch when you first turn it on, which I presume is just to allow you to download the data pack from within the game. Data pack 2 appeared, set it to download. It was like maybe 11 o'clock on a Sunday night, I think. I thought, download. The first one, when it finally worked, took 5 minutes, so I figured this one, 5-10 minutes, and I can have a couple of games and see what it's like. So an hour later, the thing finally downloads, and then it has to install, and then it has to install the installation, and then finally it worked. So it's like fucking after midnight, Sunday night, I've started, I'll have one game, my eyes are drooping at this point, and thank God it's fixed it. As far, I played the one game, so I can't guarantee that, but I never played a game this smooth before the patch, anywhere near. The button lag had largely gone. Obviously, it's chucked in 800 new faces into the game, which is a really cool update. But the main thing, all I cared about was that the button lag had gone. And even in that one match that I played, it was more exciting than pretty much any match that I'd had on FIFA. Not in terms of the drama of the game. I think it just ended up being a 1-1 draw. But it just, like when a chance happens in Pro Evo, like when someone goes through on goal or there's a near miss or something, it feels like an event. And in FIFA, it just feels like a formality a lot of the times. And I think FIFA 14 is better for that than it ever has been. But it's still not PES. And that's, PES magic is an annoying thing to say, but that really is what it is. But again, now it's finally working again, and it still takes for fucking ever to get into a match. And I know that you can just be like, turn on FIFA 8, and you're in a game online that works within 45 seconds. It's tough to go against that. I'm very interested to see how the next gen version plays on FIFA. Definitely. Been watching some streams of it today, and it's difficult to tell on a stream because you can't really see the clarity of the visuals. It looks like it plays almost exactly the same as the 360 version, which is a bit of a shame, but I haven't played it, so I can't actually confirm or deny that. But that's something that I'll definitely be getting day one on PS4 next week. So I will talk about it in due course.
Well, yeah, I'll talk about it next week because I'm getting it with my Xbox One.
Does that actually come? How does it work? Is that a download code?
It's just a code, yeah. It's code in the box, right. I think.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to complain. I know a couple of people I know who, it's nice that I know a few people who are going to have it, installed. It's nice to know we've all going to perpetually have this one game to play.
Yeah.
Pro Evo, I'm going to download that patch. I can't wait. I hope it works as well as you said. It's just, I'd be really interested to know what percentage of their audience have jumped ship, because it's like going to a gig and the band you're there to see are getting pissed in the back. How long do you wait? I don't know how long people would have waited, because it's been months now.
Yeah,
the game hasn't worked, and now they're like, oh, it's finally fixed. It's like, well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm really interested.
Months, which, if the game's coming out every year, is 1/6 of its lifespan.
Yeah,
of not working in the way that I wanted it to play, and also not having these 800 faces in, which, as I've said before, I didn't know about that when I was reviewing it. I just assumed they didn't have as many faces because they changed engine, and I was like, oh well, it's just faces. But when they're actually just holding them back for this patch, you think you just released an unfinished game then, didn't you?
God, okay. Well, I mean, it's so annoying because it's such a great game.
Yeah, hopefully it's all just clear. The next one comes out, builds on this engine, it's on next gen. Everything works straight out the box on the day one, and all this mess can be left behind. Because there's a beautiful game in there. I don't mean the beautiful game, but So
I know what you're saying. Well, if FIFA is even in any way a significant step up from the current gen version of FIFA, I'm just going to bail on Pro Evo because it doesn't.
I probably am as well.
It's annoying.
Yes, it is annoying.
Terribly annoying. But anyway, onto something slightly less annoying. My number 7 is Grand Theft Auto 5 on the Xbox 360. I stuck it on because everyone got their, what were they calling it, the stimulus package with loads of, so everyone got $500,000. So I just turned it on to check that out. I bought a house. I had a hilarious altercation with some guy with a bazooka. It went on for 20 minutes with him hightailing it. I mean, I must have done the entirety of the map, hammering it away from this guy who was firing bazookas at me out of a window of a car. Well, he must have been the passenger, I guess. But it went and it kept stopping. I kept stopping because I was trying to rob some liquor stores because I still had a few of those to do. And every time I'd stop, I'd see him hurtling towards me and I'd have to go again. And then he was in a really slow car. He got into a fast car. It was honestly, I was laughing my fucking head off because this twat would not leave me alone. and in the end, he fucking blew me up and my car. And I was just like, you shithead. But anyway, after I did that, some friends were playing, but I didn't have much time because I wanted to try and make a dent in the mission because I thought I was further through than I am, but I've still got 20 to go, maybe 20 story missions. Yeah. So I did a couple of missions in the story mode, and it's. I think I've shot myself in the foot because I've played so much online that the game kind of seems a little bit watery, and it didn't help that I did what's almost certainly it has to be the weakest mission in the campaign. It has to be where you're Trevor in that rickety old plane, and you're sort of basically tailing this cargo plane, and then you fly the plane. It's a really wet, dull mission that feels like a side mission, but it's part of the main plot, and it's the weakest mission by far, so that didn't help. But what really bothers me is that the reason when I play a Grand Theft Auto game, I'm like done for a couple of years, which is helpful that they don't come out more often than they do. But I can't handle trying to lose the police. It's always the thing I've hated the most about Grand Theft Auto. It's not as bad as it was in 4, where you clip someone's wing mirror and you're in a fucking car chase. But still, just endless chases. I got into a couple of car chases. I'm done. I can't be bothered. It became a horrible chore. And I know it wouldn't have been that way if I hadn't played so much fucking Grand Theft Auto online. But it's always too much for me. Losing the police. It's a pain in the neck. I mean, I don't mind doing it now and again, but when it happened 2 times on the trot, I don't know. It was just probably a bad time of day. But I want to finish the game before next gen. But next gen is here, so fuck. I don't know.
Yeah, I've still got a week on you, but I would like to finish it. But exactly the same feeling when I went back to the single player. It went away because I stuck with it long enough. But yeah, the same feeling. It just felt empty is the wrong word because it's actually a much fuller world. But
yeah, of course,
the fullness is hollow. You know, as amazing as they've made the NPCs and the random pedestrians in that game, they're not a guy chasing you with a bazooka that's a real person,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So it's tough, but I mean, it's fucking hell. Before I ever went online, I kind of wish I never had in some ways because it's like going to be one of my favourite games of all time. Then Save Bug plus online. Now I haven't even finished it, but I will do. I want to get to the end. You got to get to the fucking end. What
I know. Yeah, it was a bad 2 hours that I had with it. Having a hilarious laugh online and saying no, I've got to go back to the story. And the story was, I think it must have been at its weakest when I went back to it.
Do you know what? It was the exact same mission as well.
Oh really?
Yeah, the exact same one. That's where I was really struggling.
Following a plane, and then
I didn't mind the bit where you actually got onto the plane.
Yeah, you shot a few guys,
and then
fun. Jumped out. I was like, that's great, but that accounted for 1/10 of the mission.
Yeah, the rest of it was pretty damn slow.
Yeah, side mission central.
Oh well, I'll get it done. It doesn't feel like it's going to be a chore, so I definitely want to get it done.
Yeah, it was a chore for me that day, but I'm not. You know, I will. That game will be on my shelf until I finish it at least.
Yeah, for real. All right, my number 7. 7?
6 it should be, shouldn't it? That was my number 7.
6. Yeah, sorry, Christ. Yeah, I just my eyes went weird. My number 6 is Super Mario Galaxy 2. Unfortunately, we don't have access to 3D World yet. Neither of us are reviewing that one. And all the talk of 3D World is reminding me, as amazing as it sounds, I don't feel like I can go onto it yet because I haven't finished Galaxy 2. I haven't even beaten Bowser on Galaxy 2. And that to me is like, as long as I've beaten Bowser on a Mario game, then I can kind of step away and not feel too bad about it. I've beaten Bowser on 3D Land. I'm in a position where I have to find coins to get more levels. If I don't go back to it, I'm not too bothered. But Galaxy 2, I've still got a fair chunk to do, and I finally got the batteries of the Wiimote. Fucking hell, it's the most boring story ever. And yeah, so I played it through the Wii U, and goodness, it doesn't look so great anymore. I mean, art design wise, faultless, but do wish I was playing it on a CRT in some ways through the original Wii. Anyway, the game itself is obviously and predictably stunning in every single way, ingenious, tricky as well, really hard, but in a good way. I haven't played a Galaxy game for ages, and I just forgot how unbelievably good they are. I only managed to do, I think, 3 stars I did in total, because one of them was really hard and took me about half an hour. But the satisfaction when I finally got it, I've talked about my love-hate relationship with Mario before. There's never a point where I dislike his games. I think his games are all, the platform ones anyway, incredible. But himself, we have issues. But when it all comes together, we're the best of friends. And by the end of that level, we were tight. That was good times. And also, I wish other controllers were split in 2, like the Wiimote. Because even when you're just using it as a controller, I can sit back. Another boring story, I have a lot of problems with my upper back, right? As you know, but people might not know, my neck. Yeah. And when you're holding a normal pad, you tend to hunch your back over. It's really bad posture. It's terrible posture. It's really bad for your scapula. It's really bad for your traps. Really bad for your neck. But on a Wiimote, you can actually sit back and have your, open your chest out and sit. It's just much better. I wish all controllers were like that. That's it.
Well, I agree with you. Just because the Wiimote and that, especially with that game, it's perfect. You wouldn't want to control that in any other way. No. God, just thinking back to how, because I mean, the only problem I had with the first Mario Galaxy, and it wasn't even really a problem, it was just something that if someone came and said to me, what would you change if you could? It would be the open world sort of hub system. I would just have this streamlined menu system like they have in Mario Galaxy 2. Oh God, it's good. God, that just makes me want to play it. I hope if there's even a hint of that in the new Wii U one.
Apparently, the Wii U one is just relentless ideas, just every single level, and exactly, throwaway ideas, one-offs.
Yeah, that's what all great Mario games are, though.
Yeah.
You're going to wait until next year for that, are you?
Yeah, I think so, which is tough because I like we discussed off the podcast, I'd like to talk about it in potential Game of the Year lists, but it seems like such a good thing to ask for Christmas.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I
mean, I'm not one who really does much about Christmas presents anymore, so the idea of getting a Mario game like I used to when I was a kid, that sounds quite nice.
We did. Me and a mate made a pledge to each other when Mario Galaxy 1 came out. We're like, we'll wait until Christmas and we'll open it on Christmas Day and we'll play together and we'll be talking on the phone like, oh, this is amazing. And we both buckled.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, but it was a nice thought. I have to play. I mean, just hearing about it and some of the videos I've seen, I can't wait. But I mean, I don't. Fucking God knows how I'm supposed to fit it in.
I mean, we talk about that, and there's also we've not been able to talk about Zelda either, which is obviously out today. It's podcast for the same reason, unless you are going to talk about it.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I have to wait with Zelda. I can't play it this year. There's just no way.
Exactly. I'm sure it's incredible. I'm hearing from very trusted sources and obviously reading reviews that it's incredible. But what can you do?
No, nothing. Stupid. You can't. Yeah, it is stupid. Okay, all right. Well, my number 6 is a game called Quiz Up on iOS. It was a listener recommendation by Alex, I think it is, on Twitter.
That's right. I saw it on there. Yeah.
I wish the motherfucker never told me about it. It's not. It's probably not my number 6. It's probably my number 1 by a million times. Basically, if you like quizzes of any kind, pub quizzes, any kind of quiz, get it, because there's only one word I'd use to describe it, and that's comprehensive. But my God, if you're in any way, if you have an addictive personality, it's horrendously addictive. For the most horrendously addictive quiz game I've ever played. But it's amazing. It's incredibly slick and fast moving, and it has all bases covered. There's 300 plus categories, and
categories?
Just whatever you want to have a quiz about. You challenge a mate. I want to challenge you on fucking flags or movies or video game. Any Sega video games, Sony video games, Nintendo video games, movies, horror movies. I mean, every category you could possibly imagine. There's hundreds of questions in each, and it's so great. You can play asynchronously or you can play live against friends, all randoms. Each category has its own ranking system. It's if you had to design the perfect quiz app, I think this might be it. Technically faultless. I can't fault it. It's like the kind of quiz app that people have been talking about it. I've heard about it just in this past week. Loads of people have downloaded it, and apparently it's like one of the most popular apps of the last year and stuff. And you can tell why. It's just amazing. But I've got 10 ongoing battles going on with about 5 or 6 different friends on different categories, and everyone's just like duh, 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 duh. My phone is pinging me non-stop and I can't ignore it because some of my friends are really competitive, and I just have to get on there and try and school them. Honestly,
you just cheat though?
Not really. It's like you get like multiple choice. You get 4 answers, and you have like 5, 6. The faster you answer, the higher points you get.
Okay.
They have covered every possible base. All bases are covered. It's comprehensive, like I said, but just fucking hell. I mean, it's kept me awake until late at night.
You can expect an 11th battle coming very soon.
Oh yeah. All right, quiz up.
Yeah, I'm there already.
I mean, it's brilliant, but God, may it burn in hell.
Yeah, I'm there already. Don't worry about that.
All right.
All right, my number 5 is Super Stardust Delta on PlayStation Vita. Had a train journey this week, and getting myself in the mood for Resogun on PlayStation 4 next week, I decided to download Housemarque's previous shooter, Super Stardust Delta. And I was wondering, as I was playing it, had you ever played Super Stardust on PS3?
Was that a launch game as well?
Yeah.
I definitely played it at some point.
It's the one that's like Asteroids.
Yeah, I think I was quite underwhelmed by it.
It was really good, but this, I think, is almost definitely a better version of it. It's there's changes to some of the mechanics. Basically, what it is, you kind of like Mario Galaxy. Actually, you can circle a planet, and both enemies and big asteroids come down. It works with twin sticks, unlike, I'm glad it doesn't control like normal asteroids. You shoot the asteroids, they break apart. There's power-ups inside of them. You shoot the enemies. You can switch between a fire and an ice gun, and like red things get killed with the fire one, bluey, icy coloured things get killed with the ice one. Something I don't think I ever knew about the original game, which is a game I reviewed for Games TM, fucking PS3 launch, which is whenever the hell that was. And so I can't remember because that was a long time ago. But there's a boost mechanic which lets you actually plough through debris and smash it apart, and then that refills. It must have been in there, but I'd also seen that's actually a part of Resogun as well, and that's the best thing about the game, because you can start to line up enemies or debris, and natural lines will form and deliberate lines will form and boost straight through them, and then it'll kind of keep your boost chain going. That combined with the twin stick stuff is really good. It's definitely one of that genre's best games. It's not quite as immediate as Geometry Wars. It takes a little bit longer to get going. But when you're in full flow, it's really good. I downloaded the PlayStation Plus discounts on the vanilla game and the kind of Game Plus DLC, and the Game Plus DLC ended up being cheaper. It's like £4 or something. I don't know what the DLC actually is, but there's a bunch of extra modes where, kind of like some of the gameplay types in Geometry Wars 2, game like where you can only use bombs, say, or there's one where you have to tilt the Vita to move your ship. That doesn't really work, but there's some nice ideas like that. None of them really clicked in the same way. Like Geometry Wars 2's selection of modes was so spot on. Everyone was really fine tuned. These are a bit more kind of throwing a few things out there to see what sticks, but really cool. Really looks really nice on Vita. Good pounding tunes, and those guys know how to make a shooter. So I'm just excited for Resogun. I'm hearing good things, and all I want to do is get the PS4 set up, get the remote play set up, lie in bed and play Resogun. That's what I'm doing on Friday for a bit. Next Friday.
I'm surprised to hear that, because I remember being really underwhelmed by that game. I probably didn't give it the greatest chance, but
I'm so sure this version's better than the original on PS3. I'm sure it is, but I can't remember the original that well. But I remember liking that as well.
Did you buy this, or was this like on a PS Plus or something?
It's a PS Plus. The game is £4 or something like that on PS Plus. So I did buy it, yeah. But I just wanted something to play on my Vita that I hadn't already played.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, my number 5 is a game called The Bridge on Xbox 360.
The black and white game.
Yes, have you played it?
I almost downloaded it, but then it sounded like Braid, so I was like, my brain's too tired for this today.
Yeah, it's not really like Braid. It's a PC game that came out earlier this year, and it's coming to 360 now. This is an incredibly difficult case because basically I'd say it's a brilliant game, and I would recommend it to a multitude of people, but it made me feel ill. And I do mean it made me feel queasy because I was trying to compare it to something. I was trying to think of a reference point because I couldn't find anything to compare it to. It is, without question, the most difficult game I've ever played in my life.
Oh dear.
And it's just because my brain is not wired in that way. But you know, I had to. It's so difficult that I had to consult a walkthrough on 3 or 4 occasions. And if you watching the walkthrough and hearing the guy talk about it, and he was just full of love for it. And any opportunity to explain how much he loved it. And then if you look through the comments on these videos, people are madly in love with this game. So, if you're looking for a difficult game, if you love puzzle games and you think that the majority of them are too easy, I suppose they are.
What is the game?
Okay, I'm going to try to explain this as best I can. I mean, it's a brilliant. First of all, it's functional, it works, and it looks really nice. It's got a charming look to it. It's all drawn in pencil and sort of cross-hatching, and the visuals kind of wobble in that sort of way that primitive, really old animation does. It's a really endearing-looking game, and it works. So, although I can't vouch for how sort of, I'll explain how it works. You use the triggers on the pad to rotate the world. You're a little guy in this world, and all you have to do is sometimes you have to find a key, and then you have to just basically get to the door, and they're split up into chapters. So the screen is always the puzzle. It's not like you're going between screens or anything.
Right.
The screen opens, and that's what you've got to do. It starts off very simply. It's physics puzzles, but after a little while, it turns into perspective puzzles as well. So you know those Lionel Penrose endless staircase illusions. So a lot of the worlds, almost all of them, look like that. And all you have to do is collect keys, avoid obstacles, and get to the door. There is a really neat respawn system where you can rewind from death back to where you began. But, for example, if you picked up a key halfway through, you can rewind directly to there rather than going all the way to the beginning, which is quite nice. So you're flipping this thing around 360 degrees, and then it introduces inverting, which it doesn't explain brilliantly, but you walk through a door and you come out a slightly different colour, and that colour doors are accessible to you, but if you're the other colour you can't, and other things of the same colour will hurt you, but they won't if you're the other colour. Then you walk behind veils that allow you to manipulate different fields of gravity in the world. I can't... it's starting to make me feel a little bit I'm genuinely serious. It's making me feel a little bit even when I was watching a walkthrough and doing the levels as I was being told to do them. It's something about how ridiculous. I mean, all of those things working in tandem with each other, twisting the world around, different fields of gravity, inverting so that you're a different. I mean, it's complex, like no game I've ever played. I mean, for example, if the only way to explain how difficult a puzzle game was by expletives. If you can imagine Portal, the first Portal game, that's quite easy. If that was just like a pierce. The Bridge is somebody shrieking the C word in your face for about 3.5 hours. I honestly, it made me feel ill, but it's brilliant. You can tell that it's brilliant. I just don't have the brain power to deal with all of these cylinders firing. I mean, looking at some of those. I completed it, but I got to midway through the 3rd chapter, I think, before I started really needing help. And some of those, just sitting back and looking at those maps, you just think, my brain is not wired up for this. But anyway, like I said, it works, it feels good, it looks good. So I have no doubt that if you're looking for a difficult puzzle game, don't even think twice. Jump on board. With regards to, I mean, it's an Xbox Live Arcade game, but it's like that PC. It's very similar to the PC game Capsize. Do you remember that?
Yep.
where that came to Xbox Live Arcade, and it was very bare bones. It wasn't like most arcade games. It was kind of more like an indie game. There was no leaderboard support. There was no frills. There's achievements and stuff, but it doesn't get the same treatment as a lot of sort of stuff that's not started out on PC first. So it's not as good as it looks. It hasn't got the frills that a lot of Xbox Live Arcade games have. But yeah, I recommend it, but not if you're anyway like me and you can't handle hard puzzle games, because it is the absolutely hardest game I've ever played, no doubt. But everyone tells me it's brilliant. I know it's brilliant, but just not for me.
It sounds like the kind of game that would give me anxiety just even starting to play it.
That's what happened. I honestly started to go, I can't look at this anymore. And I'm listening to this guy, really affable Canadian guy, saying, do this, and then you do that, and then you manipulate, you turn that around, and then you can see you walk around that, and you're walking around different sides of the building, and there's different fields of gravity, and then you walk through a door, and you're a different colour, and you have to avoid. I mean, honestly, but the work of potentially some kind of genius.
I'd like to see this if it does make me feel like that, but it sounds like it would a bit or a lot.
But to be honest, I think if you did a trial, it wouldn't get as ferociously difficult as it does.
Right.
So have a look at it potentially, but I don't think. You might even be intrigued to buy it. That's what's really weird, because you could. It's also one of those snide games that if you're an achievement hunter, I'm not, but I kind of like the fact that my achievement number has a 0 on the end, and this is one of those ones where the achievements are like end in 6s and 3s.
Oh, right.
Which is it's slightly annoying, but it's just one of those. I don't know. It's like what's it like? I don't know. I'll tell you what it's like. It's like South Park. South Park. I admire that show so much, and I admire their work ethic, and I admire everything about it. So I basically love it, but it doesn't click with me. I love the movie, but the program, I often sit there, my friends are in hysterics, I'm just like, this doesn't click with me. But if someone asked me what I thought, I'd be like, it's fucking brilliant. Yeah. Weird one. Fucking weird one. And yeah, vomit inducing, like I said.
At least you invented a new scoring system, though.
Well, I mean, I will be very surprised if there's another game as difficult as this. I mean, I've played difficult puzzle games in my life before, but no, I mean, this makes Fez look like Portal.
Fuck. Well, I definitely don't want to play it then, because Fez just made my brain just want to get out of my house.
Yeah, me too. And this made me feel like that times 5.
Jesus. I'm not going to play that, and it sounds great.
It's wicked.
Credit to the credit to the intelligent people of the world.
Yeah.
All right, my number 4. Sorry, it's my number 4, isn't it? It's Battlefield 4. On Xbox 360. I'll talk a little bit later about playing it on a different machine, but I got the 360 version and played a bit with. I don't actually think I did play with you in the end, did I?
I'm in a weird situation where I'm kind of putting off.
Yeah, I played with our other chums. It was perfectly fine. It's tough because it does look like shit on 360. I mean, it really does.
Well, does it?
I mean, it does. I mean, it's fucking difficult to see what you're doing. I found it difficult to see guys in a distance. I'd made the mistake of streaming some PS4 footage before I started playing it, which obviously didn't help. Despite that, though, it was obviously very enjoyable, and seeing the word makes me want to yak, but the Levolution stuff on is it Flood Zone with the dam breaks?
Oh yeah.
That was fucking great. That happened within 3 minutes of me starting my first match, and I was like, fuck, this is different to Battlefield 3. Seeing the big satellite dish come down in that level, that was good. And I played just on my own, actually, with a bunch of randoms. I wasn't even speaking to them. A terrific game of Rush on Gormud. I don't know. The one where one of the points is on a train.
On a train?
Yeah, it's like a moving capture point on a train.
What? I don't think I've played that. You having a laugh?
No, it's brilliant.
This is Conquest or Rush?
Was that? Maybe I played it twice and it did that on Conquest and it didn't do that on Rush. I can't remember. But yeah, it was just one of those ones where it's really tense and you're trying to attack and you're running out of tickets and crazy stuff happening. But you could basically pull that story out of any Battlefield game since Battlefield Bad Company 1. But it's that's what Battlefield is and that's what it does very well. I'll be getting rid of this version quick smart, but I explain why I got hold of it shortly in a later a later number that I talk about. But yeah, it's fine. It's just it's tough. I mean, these consoles are done now. They're done now. They really are. They're really old.
They are old and they are done, but DICE have made it look. I thought Battlefield 4 on Xbox 360 on multiplayer does look surprisingly good. I mean, I say that knowing full well that I'm going to be playing on next gen in no time at all. And that's part of the problem. That's the reason why all of our friends have been playing Battlefield non-stop, and I've kind of just. I'm the last person that normally looks for an excuse not to play it, but I've been kind of looking for an excuse not to play it. But if you're, if you don't have money to buy a next gen machine and you're sticking with the current gen console, I think the 360 version is actually surprisingly tidy.
That is actually a true statement, and fair enough thing to say. I'm just talking about my own personal graphical whorishness, whatever. People graphics whore, is that even a thing? Why do people say that? I don't know, it doesn't really mean anything. Anyway, you're right about the 360 version there. I'm being too harsh, but to me it looks shitty. But what can you do? It's still fucking good.
It is. It really is still good. I mean, I was madly in love with it, but just for some reason over the last couple of weeks, I've looked for more. I've had more and more outlandish excuses to tell people that I can't make it. Well, I mean, I've had other stuff to play, but yeah, I've turned into you. I'm just like, I'm not interested until the next gen. So I haven't played it since sort of launch week, the first 7 days it was out. And it's something, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does make sense, though, 'cause it's not like you've got to wait 6 months, is it? You've got to wait like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or for you, you'll probably be playing it by the time this podcast is out.
Almost certainly, yeah. I'm surprised that I played that game to death over that week. There's a level with a moving train capture point on it.
Almost certainly. Unless I've gone mad. I mean, I always, in the back of my mind, whenever you question me or anyone questions me something like that, it's like, did I just make all of that up? Is that just a hallucination? But no, I think that's right.
Maybe you trigger something and that's one of those, if not Levolution moments, something that sort of, because there are some things that happen. Like we were doing that. Did you do Parasol Storm when it starts out on the aircraft carrier and then it's those 2 islands?
That's amazing.
Oh man,
I can't wait to see what that's like on PS4. I really can't.
Exactly. Or Xbox One, they're basically the same.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. Stuff happened like a battleship crashed in the middle island.
Oh, I haven't seen the Levolution of that. I've only seen the Storm. I hate that word, but there's no other word to describe it.
No, you have to use it. Yeah. But no, and then my mate Nick kind of sort of moved the boat a little bit and got on the gun seat and all. It's just like wicked. In addition to how great it was already, but yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I'll speak about it at length next week, no doubt, because I'll be playing it on next gen. Is Xbox One next gen? I don't know.
Yes.
I can't keep up. Is it?
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm hearing mixed things.
Maybe I do. We'll talk about that in a minute, but we'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay. Okay, all right. Well, my number 4 is Soul Calibur 2 HD Online on the Xbox and the Xbox 360. I've been playing this a hell of a lot. I didn't intend to play it as long as I have done, but I have smashed this today. Soul Calibur 2 was always my favourite Soul Calibur game. I like 3. In fact, I like all of them. I liked every Soul Calibur game. I think they've always been really of a really, really high standard. But this is the one I remember the most fondly, and it's the one that I always liked the most. The first thing to note is that it's so slick. The way that everything you can do really fast. You can move around menus really quickly, and it doesn't look. I mean, it's not. What did they call? I can't remember what they called it. The Street Fighter Redux, where they basically took all of the elements and redid everything to make it look like a current gen game almost. Championship HD Redux or something.
I know what you mean, yeah.
This is not that. They've given it a very, very basic HD lick of paint, which is not a terrible thing because Soul Calibur 2 still looks pretty good, really. But sacrificing all those bells and whistles means that everything moves quickly. You're just in and out of matchmaking, in and out of I mean, everything moves so fast that there's a slickness to it that I really, really responded to. The most important thing, obviously, is that there's online, and the matchmaking, as far as I'm concerned, I've seen a couple of people online saying that there was teething problems in literally the first hours that the game was on sale, and professional players are saying there's input delay here and input delay. I mean, I'm not a professional player. I play Soul Calibur quite a bit, but I'm not going to be a stickler for the tiniest detail like that. Matchmaking for me was absolutely perfect. I mean, fast, and I've been playing all day, and I've played probably 50 games online.
Jesus.
And every single, but because it's so fast, I forgot how fast the games are over in no time at all.
Yeah, they are.
Every single one of them, bar none, literally bar none, was fast and completely lag free, time after time after time. It's the most. It's simple. The problem. This is where the problems come in. It's incredibly simplistic. You can jump into a ranked match, jump into a quick match, and that's fine. If you're playing with a friend and you want to start setting up lobby, there's no lobby system at all. You have to set up a private match, and as soon as that one match is done, it boots you back to the main menu, and you have to do it all again.
Oh, that's annoying.
You can't even replay. You can't even do a rematch.
No, that's terrible.
So, I'm hoping that they're going to patch that, because that seems like an incredibly weird oversight, almost as weird as the Battlefield no lobby system. But it's weird. It's just how I'm playing with a mate. We have a game, and then it boots you back to mate. It's completely mad. But despite that, matchmaking is really, really great. Everything else is pretty much as you'd expect. I mean, the arcade mode is a nice throwback, but it's a museum piece, because times have you forget how much times have changed with regards to fighting game single player. Even Soul Calibur 5 took. I think the most influential single player fighting game was the Mortal Kombat remake, because even Soul Calibur 5 kind of lifted a few elements from that itself. So this is, and there's still the Weapon Master mode, which if you want to unlock all characters and weapons, you still have to play. It's a bit of a grind, but it's the game as it was originally intended, with a nice lick of paint and a really, as far as I'm concerned, a basically faultless online component. If you play the single player stuff, there's still. It's just old. There's preset spikes I still remember. So if you do an arcade run through, you get a few matches in. You get to Ivy, she'll always beat you. You get to Mitsurugi, he'll always beat you. It's just an old hat game, man. It's like you're basically paying for the game, which I think is probably pound for pound the best Soul Calibur game online, and I think that's a great proposition. The real problem is, and you brought this up earlier, how on the brink of a new generation do you ask people to pay? I mean, some people have said that these prices fluctuate and they're changing them, and some are incorrect. But at the moment, it's was it £16?
It's $15.99. I saw today. Yeah,
$15.99. That's what I saw when I downloaded it, and I think it's fixed at $20. But in England, it's 16. Someone told me it's meant to be £12, but then it went back to. I don't know. The pricing is a little bit sort of hazy at present, but by all accounts, the current price for this game is £16, and for something that's so as good as it is online, you're paying for how old is that game?
It's pretty damn old. Damn old. I was at uni, so that's over a decade.
Yeah. So. It's still a classic. I mean, if this HD online version proves anything, it's that Soul Calibur 2 is a classic, and it still endures in the same way that Street Fighter does. But that's just the price point is all wrong. Who is? I mean, like I said, on the brink of a current generation, it seems like a slightly mad thing to do. And the leaderboards. There are certain corners are cut, so the leaderboards are only for ranked matches and player points, and then there's no time attack leaderboards or survival leaderboards. It just seems like a little bit of a half-assed port that I would pay happily, £7-8 for, without even thinking twice, and I would recommend it to everybody. But at this point, with the new consoles coming out, £16. You've got to be mad. I'm sorry, you have got to be mad. As much as I've enjoyed this, and I'm fortunate enough that I didn't have to pay for this. But if I had, I would have already got my money's worth. I could not put this down. It's still got that fucking thing. When you're playing it online, I could not put it down. Game after game after game, I literally could not put it down. I got some abusive messages from some people because I was kicking ass. Oh God, it's great online, but I'm so torn, because I feel like I've already got £16 worth of entertainment out of it, but it's a bit. That's a loss of money for most people.
It really is, for a very old game.
It is a very old game, and there's no frills, but in a way I don't want any more frills. It's weird. It's a difficult case. I'm going to recommend it to a couple of my friends, because we used to play that game to death back in the day, and it's so nice to play to play it online to a standard that I think is more than acceptable. I've seen some conversations between people who are like hardcore players who say that it's not quite up to snuff. But I was playing people in Europe, in Canada, in America, and no lag. It was faultless, left and right.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult one. I think it's overpriced, but brilliant. But it didn't need to be any more than this. They could have reworked this or added this, but difficult one.
Yeah, exactly as you say. Exactly as you say. I can't add anything to that. My number 3 then. My number 3 is wicked. My number 3 is a game called Stick It to the Man. This is weirdly one of 2 games that I'm going to talk about by the end of this list. Everything's made out of paper. This game I'd never heard of, but once again, my boy Shahid Ahmed or Shahid Kamal, whatever he goes by on Twitter, the guy who works for Sony, he said that this was one of the first games they signed when they started the new initiative, and it was just about to come out. So I made contact with the developers and the publishers and to see if I could cover it, and they were very forthcoming, which is great. So. Yeah, this is weird. I'd never heard of this game. It's so accomplished. It's crazy. It is it's kind of 2D combination of a platform game and an old school, almost LucasArtsy adventure. You play as a guy called Ray. Everything's right. First off, everything's in this 2D kind of almost diorama style. Everything looks like it's been cut out of paper and put into the world. It's animated brilliantly in a kind of darkly comic style. Really, really, really cool. It looks great, and it has kind of grainy effect on the screen. It's a really good looking game. This is on PS3, by the way, and Vita. I was playing on PS3. At the beginning, Ray has a job where he wears a hard hat and things drop on his head, and he tests how much it hurts. That's his job. At the beginning of the game, a weird device drops on his head, puts him into a coma, and he wakes up and he has a giant pink spaghetti hand coming out of his head. And that's weirdly, that's the conceit of the game. This hand can be used to grab push pins that are put in the world, and he can kind of leap to them as platforms. Or the second thing that he can do, which is way more interesting, is he can use it to read the minds of the characters in the world. And all of the stuff, you can apparently there's 100 NPCs in the game, and they're all voiced fully. So when you go and you read their minds and read their thoughts, you get full voice acting of what they're thinking, and this then leads to puzzles. You'll have to you're trying to get somewhere. Maybe at the first level, you're basically trying to get home. You're stuck out in the streets, and you come across a guy who's trying to hang himself off a lamppost, and he looks like a fucking classic cartoon Guido with a funny beard and stuff like that. Bizarre character, and you find out that the reason he's trying to hang himself is because his girlfriend left him because his teeth are terrible. And you go, okay, you move a bit further along the level, and there's like an ancient old man having a disco competition with this guy's girlfriend, and he has amazing teeth. So you can see where the puzzle's going to lie, right? And you read their minds and you find out this stuff. But in order to get the teeth, you've got to go through this elaborate other set of stuff. And each level, which is really, they're quite expensive 2D levels, turns into kind of almost Rube Goldberg type thing, where you have this thing affects this thing, and it all comes together in a way that reminds me of Ghost Trick, which is again we talked about on one of the earliest podcasts. Oh, yeah. Where eventually you can see how everything's going to come together. It's just, it's a really fun, it's a brilliant game. It's a brilliant game. It's written by, I think the guy who's written it, one of the writers, is responsible for the Adventure Time comic. So I don't know if he's actually written the TV show, but he's written the comic, and it's very similar to that. Imagine Adventure Time on whiskey instead of sugar and candy, and it's the similar type of vibe to that. Daft as fuck, but witty and clever and slightly sarcastic without ever being cynical. When you read people's minds, it's just funny. I mean, it's funny and kind of twisted, but never in a particularly nasty way. It's difficult to describe without actually reading some of the dialogue. So I should say, listen to some of the dialogue. But it definitely reminds me of the classic LucasArts stuff, the classic Sam and Max in particular. And I was just blown away by it. It's, I'd say the only downsides to it are you can get into that adventure game trap where you kind of get stuck and just try everything with everything you pick up. The reason it's called Stick It to the Man is because the items that you pick up in the game are stickers, and you can stick them using your weird spaghetti pink hand to things in the world, but they basically act as items. Eventually, you can just start. If you get stuck, I'm going to try this sticker with everything in the world until something works. That's a classic adventure game problem, and it's made slightly easier here because it tells you where in the world things can be stuck, as opposed to an old school adventure game where you just have to click on fucking everything. That's actually a good thing in this game, that it's way less obtuse and irritating than most of those classic games. But apart from that, it's just come out of nowhere for me anyway, and smashed it. It costs a tenner. It's going to be on PS3 and Vita. It's out now. And I'd highly recommend it. But the only problem is, fucking terrible time to come out.
Yeah.
Terrible. Not only is it a game about stuff that's made out of paper that's coming out the same week as a game that I'll talk about in a minute, but it's coming out the same week as the Xbox One, a week before the PS4, the same week as Zelda. I mean, it's just such a shame. I don't know how it's ended up coming out this week. If it had come out in the summer... It just that nobody's talking about this game. It's really good, really good.
Why have I have literally never heard of it.
I had never heard of it, and that, some of that's down to me. I should have, whenever I've not heard of a game, I was a bit disappointed in myself as someone who works in the industry. But I'd never heard of it, and the production values are through the fucking roof. It deserves to be the game everyone's talking about.
What? What? So this is out. This will be out by the time the podcast goes out.
It's out as we're talking. Yeah.
Is it? Are they? How are they dealing with this? Are they putting all of these indie games on? Is this going to be on PS4 as well?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, I think it's just PS3 and PS Vita.
I've literally never heard of this.
Nor did I. The only reason it came out is because he mentioned it on Twitter, like one evening, and I just thought, oh, what's that? That looks interesting. Let's see if I can get hold of it, basically, before it came out to talk about it. And then, I was like, fuck, what is this? This is brilliant.
Are Sony publishing it?
It's published by Ripstone, and it is made by a team called Zoink, who I think are some Europeans, and I think Ripstone are English. But no, it's not been published by Sony, but it's just been signed as a game that can appear on their platforms.
What the hell? All right, fuck. Stick it to the man.
Yeah, stick it to the man. It's the shit. I mean, I haven't finished the game, so I don't know if it goes wrong at the end. But I mean, the large amount that I've played is just really good. Not like anything else. Very, very, very well written, clever. Never annoyingly it's never too knowing or anything like that. It's just, it has a very similar vibe to Sam & Max and to Adventure Time. It really does.
Fuck. Okay, I've just thought, we're sitting here saying why haven't, I'm asking why I haven't heard of it. It's because nobody really cares, because everybody's sort of obsessed with the new hardware.
Yeah. But indie games do get a lot of traction in certain circles, but this one
They did. That's the kind. This is the kind of game that I would expect that I would have heard about.
I think it's because it's not out on. It's not a PC thing. I think most of those games, when they're appearing on PC, people talk about them. But
maybe that's
because it's only. That's just a guess on my part. But I wanted to say one more thing about it. This character that you meet, or just after the bit that I was talking about earlier, it's this guy who's also trying to get to the disco competition, but he's stuck in the boot of a trunk with some like gangster types. And Carl Weathers in Arrested Development, all he wants to talk about is stew.
Yeah.
All this guy wants to talk about is Silver Surfer on the NES, and he's talking about it in the boot, and then you release it, and he's like, let's talk about Silver Surfer on the NES. Oh man, I'd like to talk about that, but I've got to go to this dance competition. It's just stuff like that. That type of humour just cracks me up.
Nice. There's still some meat on that bone.
Yeah.
Fuck. Okay, this is the problem we're in. I was just about to say I will play that. I will play it. Will I? Oh, God. Fuck, okay, that's really interesting. I'm going to look into it at the very least because it sounds really interesting.
It's really good.
Okay, this is going to be a trend on this episode, but my number 3 is a game called Ratchet and Clank Nexus on the PlayStation 3. This is like many of the games we've spoke about on this episode. It's a game that at any other time, if there wasn't new hardware coming out, I think would be a real talking point, and I think more people would be inclined to play it. I mean, It's a budget game. Which is a smart move, I have to say. I mean, visually, it's not terrible, but the opening hour, I'd say it's more on a par with a download game than something you'd buy on a disc.
Sure.
But as the game progresses, it gets more expansive and more better looking and stuff like that. And it's made by Insomniacs, who made the first Ratchet and Clank games, because Ratchet and Clank's kind of gone on a weird trajectory.
Haven't they played all of them?
No, I don't think they did, didn't they? Because there was a weird multiplayer one. There was that sort of tower defense one, wasn't there? There was. It kind
I'm
of stopped.
91.2% sure they made all of them.
If that's true, then I apologise, but I'm okay. If that might well be true, but with regard to the games, they stopped being Ratchet and Clank games. There was the online sort of competitive game, and then there was the sort of tower defense. Was it? It stopped being Ratchet and Clank.
Yeah,
basically.
I stopped paying attention to them this generation. Really, I knew about them in the older gen.
If they were developed by Insomniac, that's why I stopped paying attention, because I thought that they kind of went off on weird tangents and they stopped being what they were. And this is very much a throwback, or it's a return to the Ratchet and Clank style of game. It's really good, and I mean, there were, over the first couple of hours when it didn't look so great, and I was, there's a lot of new stuff out at the moment. I was kind of thinking, why am I still playing this? And the longer it went on, the smarter it got, and by the end, I was just like, this is actually really quite something, and I hope more people play it. Again, it's one of those games that's kind of confined to the PlayStation 3. It's not going to be anywhere else. It's not on the Vita. It's not on the PlayStation 4. But it's really good, and I had every reason to think that I was looking for an excuse for this to wind me up so much that I'd stop playing it, but. It's fantastically entertaining. It's a third-person shooter. It's a platformer. The only thing that's wrong with it is that these games have always highlighted a really fundamental problem that I have with difficulty settings, because these are very simple games, and there's no parry and there's no evasive maneuver, and they're third-person shooters. So the game involves you have to run in and hack and slash or shoot from a long distance, or it's not particularly sophisticated, but I don't know why there's difficulty settings, because it just makes the whole thing frustrating. If you started it on hard, as I did before eventually going back, everything just kills you faster, because it's not. This shouldn't be Bayonetta, but at the same time, running in and hacking stuff and then backing off and shooting things. If everything just kills you faster, why bother putting? Because it's not more difficulty; it's just more of a shitty game, and that winds me up. But aside from that, it's. The only other problem I have, and I don't think I had this with any of the other Ratchet and Clank games, is that you walk quite slowly. I think that's a new problem, because some of the areas are quite big, and when you're sort of trundling along, it kind of frustrated me that you were walking quite slowly. And some of the checkpointing is quite severe. It's you can do quite a large stretch, and if you die, you'll be sent back probably 10 minutes worth of the way, which is a little bit much. It's a third-person shooter. It's an action game, but there's a grav stream system, so it's basically like those things from Portal where you jump up and you're sort of moved along to different, like those sort of fluorescent tubes that you jump inside.
Oh yeah.
And they come up throughout the game, and it's kind of like skyhooking in BioShock Infinite, in that you can use those things to find hidden areas, and you can also use them to spice the combat up. So they are without doubt the best part of the game. Because they make what's a fairly straightforward game into something that you can play around with it a little bit. And then there's these other bits which are fucking fantastic, where you can basically there's these tears in the world, and the game essentially turns into a 2D action game where you're manipulating all four corners of this world and manipulating four corners of gravity and moving this Clank around these levels. And you have to get chased out, but hard to explain, but ingenious. And it's one of those games that starts out and you just think, this is going to be exactly what I'm expecting, and it's so much more than that. And it's kind of, the longer I played it, the more frustrated I got that more people aren't going to play it. It's kind of just destined to peter out alongside the PlayStation 3 as a game that most people will never play. And it deserves a better fate than that. It's truly inventive, consistently throughout its running time, and it's a budget game, but everyone's.
How much does it cost?
I think it's £20. Is it £20? I think it's still coming out on a disc, but it's a budget launch, so I'm pretty sure it's £20.
That's a good idea.
it's a very good idea, but at the same time, it's a franchise that has lost a lot of people recently, and I don't know, but it was interesting playing it, because the longer I played it, I thought part of me just thinks that we are stuck in a world where there is just too many fucking good games around. So if you're a fan of Ratchet and Clank, this is a throwback to the great games you remember, and it's as good as some of those great games. But Jesus Christ, how could I with any confidence or conscience recommend this when Mario's out in a week and a bit?
Yeah, I don't. It's difficult. I mean, it's beyond difficult. There are too many games, and we don't help by doing more games in a podcast than probably anybody else every week.
Yeah.
But sorry about that. That sounds fun. I'll never play it. I know I won't, but that does sound good.
That's what I feel. I wish I could address the people that made that game, and I just make it shit. I don't need another really good game that's so good. I want to try and tell people to set a bit of time aside and play, because it is that good. When you're jumping around those gravity streams and finding new areas and spicing up the combat by jumping in and out of it's really good. It shouldn't be good. It should be them clock punching and making a shit game. It's not. It's annoying. Life's too short.
I agree with all of it. My number 2, Battlefield 4 Second Assault, the first of the map packs that's going to be coming out. So if you bought Battlefield 4, you're going to get a free pack called China Rising, which is out in December. I actually played that too, but I can't talk about that yet. But Second Assault is the first pack, which you are going to have to pay for either through your premium subscription or a fee. I don't know how much it costs. I don't know. This is 4 old maps. It's Battlefield 3 maps, much like the first Battlefield 3 expansion, Back to Arkham was old maps. This is also old maps. So here you've got Operation Metro, you've got Caspian Border, you've got Gulf of Oman, which is an old map in itself, so this is a remake of that one, and you have Operation Firestorm. So it's a strange one, because it's like I believe like a fan favourite thing, or I don't know if there was a vote, but personally, if it was me, there would be different maps. Totally get why Caspian Border's in there, get why Metro's in there to a point, but the lack of Damavan Peak is surprising to me. And I really like Tehran Highway and Seine Crossing, but I think that was just because I probably had more good games on those ones than anything else. Anyway, they've been kind of remixed ever so slightly for Battlefield 4, and I say ever so slightly because it really isn't much of a difference. Kick things off on Metro, and that is basically exactly the same, so it falls into the same problems as it used to, where Conquest is a bit of a nightmare. It just turns into a wood chipper in the middle, but it's fun if you're winning, and Rush is still good, but it is what it is. There's not a huge amount of scope for vastly tactical play. It's just a bit more of a push. You'll know more about all of these sorts of things than I do. So I'll talk about what's changed on the maps. Levolution is the word that annoys me, but they have it in this map where you can shoot out some of the struts at the interior in the tunnels, and it'll bring down the ceiling. It's not exactly as impressive as some of the other stuff that we've seen, but it's cool. It's cool that it's in there. It's less blue than it used to be. All of the maps are less blue than they used to be. They're a bit more battlefieldy, orangey.
Gold.
Gold. It's Operation Metro. If you played it a lot on Battlefield 3, you know exactly what to expect. It's a fine map. It's not one of the all-time greats in my opinion, but it's a fine map. Moving on, we have the one that I'm not sure at all why they introduced. They included, which is Operation Firestorm. Never liked it in Battlefield 3. Always thought it was bland. Yeah. Too flat. I know you got that hill in the distance where people come over and whatnot, but too flat for most things. Getting shot by snipers in the distance. Loads of pipes here. The only thing you can change is you can shoot some of the pipes to create fire traps. It's bollocks. It's just going to be one that comes on the rotation, and you're just going to be like, oh, really? Yeah. Battlefield. You can play Battlefield on a fucking table, and exciting things will happen. But this is not their best work, and I'm just surprised that it made the pack. It's just a bit of a dud, I think. So after that, you have kind of the opposite, another big map, but Caspian Border, which is just like a big play field for everything that's good about Battlefield, really. Especially in Conquest, that's a Conquest map. And Yeah, you know about Caspian. Everyone knows about Caspian Border. It's massive. It's got jets. It's got choppers. It's got all the ground vehicles. There's some stuff. The evolution here is the giant radio tower in the middle that can now be failed, and it falls down in quite an impressive way, and then makes some piping that you can move through on the ground. It's not a level changer like some of the stuff in the vanilla Battlefield 4 is, but it's cool. It's cool when it happens. And
that could happen in Battlefield 3. It's just that the only time me and everyone I know ever saw it had already happened. We're like, that's the tower's down. How did that happen? I don't know if you had to fly a plane into it, but it definitely wasn't spectacular.
Oh, well, it's pretty spectacular now.
Oh, good. All right, something.
But I didn't actually know that. But it's quite spectacular now. But one thing I always found about Caspian Border and almost any Battlefield map of size is that you're having your own stories, and you know that there are all these other stories happening on this map with other people, but you'll never see them. Yeah. They could be all the way over the other side of the map, and they're having their own adventures, and their own crazy things are happening. And when you ramp up the number of players, not that I played with the situation I played in, which I'll discuss briefly in a minute, was still only 16 versus 16. But these maps are going to be hosting 64 players on console as well now on the next gen. So it's just going to be more scope for madness. And Caspian Borders is a great map. Always has been, always will be. I wouldn't be surprised if that just keeps appearing in Battlefield forever. What's the final one? It is Gulf of Oman, which is a cool map. A lot of I find when I play on that map, it's all about sort of dealing with the choppers as you're trying to get the different capture points, stopping them. What's really cool about this version is it whips up into a fucking crazy sandstorm about halfway through in a similar way to Parasol Storm, but it's a sandstorm as opposed to a normal storm, and it kind of reminds me of Spec Ops: The Line. When you have the stuff that really wrecks with the visibility and your accuracy and stuff, and that kind of changes the way the map plays, because the sort of ground to air and air to ground stuff changes quite a lot, and it becomes more about infantry. Just has a lot of personality, that map, and works really well on a variety of different modes that we played it on. It's a good pack overall. The stuff they've added to the maps is cool. It's not like Endgame on Battlefield 3, which is like a fantastic DLC pack. This is just like, okay, 3 out of 4, I'm happy these are in rotation. Operation Firestorm, all right, fine. Yeah, you're going to have a good match on there every now and again. You're going to have a few where you just wish you were on a different map, but it's not the end of the world. But overall, it's good map, good pack, and a good way to kick off the DLC season, or whatever you call these things these days, on Battlefield 4. Right, moving on to... I played it on Xbox One, and I have to say that I was left unimpressed by playing it on Xbox One. There's no two ways about it. It's been widely reported that the game runs at 720p on Xbox One, and obviously whatever resolution you can get it to on PC, and it's going to be 1080p on PS4. And I haven't played PS4, but I've watched PS4 being played loads on Twitch, and it looks cracking on PS4. It doesn't look that good on Xbox One. Now, I have to say that we were put in front of 40-inch TVs, and I was mere feet away from them, so that doesn't help. But so there was jaggies and things like that, and they're very noticeable, but I was very, very close to the screen. On a smaller TV where you're sitting further away, it's not going to look like that. And, it does look better than the 360 version in every way, don't get me wrong there. Shadows, lighting, detail, everything. One issue, probably the main issue, is the frame rate. Now, it runs at 60 as opposed to 30, and it's noticeably smoother when it's running well. Noticeably smoother than the playing on 360. It's much better for it. It makes the game look and feel better, but it did feel like the Xbox One was struggling with the larger vistas on the larger maps, and the frame rate would dip. I mean, it would dip a lot and often, and more so than it does on 360 running at 30, and that just... Do you know what it made me feel? It wasn't like it was a hugely inferior version. You can have a lot of fun if you buy Battlefield 4 on the Xbox One, but it didn't feel like I was playing on a machine that was something to be excited about, the next-gen machine. And that's not what you want to hear the day that the Xbox One comes out. And I have it on great authority from people who are playing Xbox One. They're playing games like Rise, they're playing games like Forza. Those games look great, but just don't. it's not up to the standard of what I'd want it to be. And I've talked to multiple times about the fact I'm buying the PlayStation and not the Xbox One, but there's purely a business thing right now. I don't have the capital to buy both, and I'm just waiting. Given that most games are multi-platform, I'm certainly in no situation where I care about one console or the other. Anyone who knows me, I've been doing this 10 years, I wouldn't give a shit about anything like that. But I came in that morning to play this game, very excited to be playing a decent amount of time on Xbox One, and came back thinking, I don't know if that machine's finished.
You a hater?
Yeah, I'm not. I want the fucking machine to be great. I want all games to be as best as they can possibly be. And I'm sure if you buy an Xbox One, you're going to have some great times with it. But there's no reason why that game shouldn't be 1080p 60 frames per second when it is on the other console. That's it. It's same as Ghost. If it is on the other console that's coming out at the same time, and that console's cheaper, then that shouldn't be like that. And if this is a next generation console that you're supposed to be getting pumped about, which I am, it shouldn't look that much worse than the PC version. Day one. These are new consoles, man. I know you can spend thousands on the PC and get games looking stupid, but I know that I could run Battlefield 4 on my decent PC right now, and it would look way better and run better than that, and that's not good enough.
No, it's not. Fuck, I mean, I'm reluctant to talk about anything to do with the current generation of consoles because that's all I've talked about with my friends for the last few weeks, and everybody's umming and ahhing about which machine to get. And yeah, it's a shame. But the problem is that at the end of the day, in 5 years' time, each machine is the same. I stuck by the GameCube back in the day, and it was the least powerful machine, and it was this and it was that, and it didn't have this and it didn't have that, but it had some of the best games. I mean, but it's annoying that if you're a true Battlefield fan, which I think I am, if you're buying the machine that's supposedly going to support the franchise that you want and give you the DLC early and all of that stuff, the fact that you have to just say, okay, I'll just buy the inferior version just because of all that stuff, that's bullshit. I don't know. Who knows what's true and what isn't, but the fact that you've actually played it and it looks fucking wank is...
Yeah, it doesn't look wank, like, it doesn't, but it doesn't look good enough.
Earlier today, you did say to me that it looks vaguely similar to the Xbox 360
Yeah, and I put on the 360 version today to check that, and at times when you're looking into the distance, I was like, this doesn't look much different, and the reason being is they're both at 720p, and I know a lot of people, I'm not really one to talk bang on about resolutions and anything hugely technical, it kind of bores me to tears, but fundamentally 720p and 1080p is actually quite a big fucking difference. It's basically double the resolution in 1080p, and you can see it a mile off, and I've noticed that by piddling about with resolutions on PC games recently. And when I sat down and I looked at that, and I was like, shit, this isn't the game I've been seeing in the trailers, and it isn't the game I've been watching be streamed on PS4. And I turned to the guy a couple of doors down from me, who I know is another member of the press, and where he works has both consoles in, and he was like, it looks a lot better on PS4, and so that makes it the inferior version. And it's not really a slight on the console, because whatever, it's going to be different in 6 months, it's going to be different in 1 month, right? All the games that are coming out, who knows whether they're going to be exactly as you say, but right now, day one, that's an inferior version, and it just is. And I haven't played the PS4 version, and I'm confident that it is. It is, because the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, I know. Fuck! I'm in a very, very privileged situation in that I haven't had to pick because my girlfriend's a maniac and she's buying me the other one. But I'm here. We shouldn't get into this conversation, but the amount of stuff that I'm hearing about the Xbox One is not fucking good, and Yeah. I
mean, as a kind of follow-up to that, I have been having conversations with people who do have them in the office, and as I said, they've been playing all the games, and the general feedback on the machine is that it's a really good machine. The interface is cool. Some of the games look amazing. So, if you sat there with your Xbox One in the box and you're just listening to Chet and John on the way home on the bus, don't cry into your fucking game bag, because I'm sure you're going to have a cracking time. I'm talking about this game and the feelings that I had just playing this game at this time. But you might fucking hate Battlefield. If you do, then sorry, because you've got 89 episodes of us talking shit about it. But,
yeah, really.
It wasn't my first experience on Xbox One. I played a few games on Xbox One, but my first proper lengthy time sitting down on a next generation console, you don't want to walk away feeling like that.
Yeah, that's true. It is, but like you say, all of this stuff, all of these het-up attitudes, everything about it is means nothing really, because once the games are out, there's going to be great games on both systems. I don't know. I'm so confused right now.
It's tough because it's more expensive and the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah. It's all about right now.
I know. It's a confusing situation. But anyway, my number 2 is Marvel Lego Superheroes on the Xbox 360. It's available on all number of other formats. Potentially every format that it could possibly be available on, it is on. I'll try and be brief. It's last year, Lego Batman 2 and Lego Lord of the Rings made my cut for the best. When we did our roundup of the 20 best games of the year, both of those games were on my top 20 because I thought they were absolutely terrific. There was a lot of excitement about the initial Lego games, the Lego Star Wars and whatnot, and I think that was just people sort of. I think people praised those unnecessarily because I think that those games were desperately trying to be things. I mean, I remember at the time people said to me, "Oh, it's the kind of game I can play with my young nephew, or it's the kind of game I can play with my kids. It's so great to have a game that we can both play together." But the problem with that is that there were no puzzles. Essentially, you'd walk around, you'd hit a bunch of stuff, and then you'd move on, and you'd hit a bunch of stuff. I found them terribly boring. So the fact that the Lego series of games has blossomed into this thing that I think is truly bridges the gap between kids and adults is really, really quite significant. Lego Marvel Superheroes, I think there's a slightly less emphasis on humour than there was in both Lego Batman 2 and Lego Lord of the Rings, and there are technical issues. I'm playing on 360. And there are slight technical issues. I mean, Lego Lord of the Rings and Lego Batman 2 felt to me like they were hitting the peak of what the current generation of consoles can do. You know, the Xbox 360 and the PS3, they looked great, they felt slick, and here you can tell that we're knocking on the door of the next generation. I mean, there's the frame rate stutters a little bit on 360. And there's screen tearing. I mean, most of this happens because periodically in between levels, there's a sandbox where you can fly around as Iron Man and stuff. And when you're doing that, there is screen tearing and there is frame rate drops and stuff like that. But when you're actually in the levels, physically in the Lego levels, it looks really gorgeous. And there's a tip, incidentally, if you're playing on split screen co-op, there's still no online co-op, but if you're playing in split screen multiplayer, you can set the division to be static, either horizontally or vertically, because if you don't do that, this is a more chaotic game than any of the other Lego games. So it's flying around, and sometimes it gets confused. So sometimes if you're moving around a lot, it can put you on the bottom screen when you're supposed to be on top. I mean, it goes mental. It goes diagonal. It goes upside down. All that stuff. So if you're playing on co-op, on split screen co-op, definitely fix that down so that it's not going to be moving around. It's a great game. It's a really terrific game. I think these Lego games have reached near Pixar levels of quality and just the other thing. It's funny that in this game there's 15 levels, and if you're not rushing around and trying desperately to complete them, I'd say each one is up to an hour long. And for games that are that long, because they are 15 hours is quite long if you're not exploring, they're remarkably free of filler. And in addition to that, there's this sandbox element which is completely optional, but you can play around in it if you want, and there's sort of side missions and stuff like that. But as I was saying earlier about the fact that the earlier Lego games didn't sort of have any puzzles, they basically didn't want anyone to get to a point where you could get stuck. I got stuck on a couple of occasions. I played this on co-op with my girlfriend, and I played it on my own, and there are difficulty spikes. I suppose technically they're not difficulty spikes, they're just puzzles that are a little bit more taxing than the other ones, but by removing things like that, there's no sense of reward, and it is quite rewarding when you figure out, as simple as because the solutions are always really, really quite straightforward. There are a couple of imperfections with the AI. If you're one of the characters that uses fire or lasers or something, you know, if you're Flame On guy, Fantastic Four, or if you're the laser eyeballs from X-Men,
you comic book fan.
I'm a comic book expert, I have but yeah, there are a load of puzzles because they're all sort of bunched into categories. Some of them have skills, but they're all essentially sort of bunched off into several different categories. But if you're one of those characters, for example, and you have to melt some ice. If you're playing on single player, your AI partners will just often stand in front of you and you have to melt them down. And if you're the laser eye guy, you have to draw a shape around or something. Cyclops, you have to melt a certain shape out of a structure, and there's someone standing in your way. Every time you go past a certain point, you'll have to melt them and tiny little details that probably shouldn't be a problem. And if you're in the middle of a mass brawl and you're playing on single player, the game appears to get confused because you're trying to switch to a different character, but there are all these guys waving their arms around and trying to sort of get a piece of the action that it just bounces between one or two of you. So there are technical imperfections, but they are minor. But by and large, it's a really terrific game. The Lego games now are at a level that I never thought they'd get to. They are truly high quality in every aspect, and they're funny. They're not hilariously sort of thigh-slappingly funny, but they're funny in a way that I don't have children, but this would be my first port of call if a child that I had wanted to play games.
Yeah, they will be the games that I play with my little fella in a year or so when he's capable.
Yeah, but because I laughed at them in the same way that a child would laugh. You know, there's great slapstick. If you're Mr. Fantastic from the Fantastic Four, he can turn into any object. So there's puzzles where he turns into wrecking balls or pliers. And if you just hold his sort of transform button, he just, for no reason whatsoever, just turns into a fucking teapot. And when you're playing as another character and you see this teapot bouncing around, it's hilarious. It really is hilarious. And, you know, the dialogue's really well done as well. I mean, it's stupid. You know, what's that bad guy? Red Skull. I am the Red Skull. You are merely numbskulls. a terrible line of dialogue. But the actors deliver it with such conviction. It's not one of those things like, well, hey, this is a kid's game. There's something vaguely serious about it, which I think is what makes it work so well. So these games are really on... I was waiting for them to... I'm still waiting for them to sort of take a bit of a downturn, but... There's so much content. If you're a fan of... My girlfriend is a massive Marvel nutcase, and the amount of in-jokes she was getting... You have to rescue Stan Lee on every level. He's sort of in peril somewhere else. But in addition to that, there is in-jokes galore that my girlfriend was just so tickled by. They've worked above and beyond. They really are on a different plane these days. They're accessible to kids, obviously, and they're accessible to us as well. They have bridged that gap that I think few games manage to do. So it's great. I mean, it's absolutely terrific, and there's no filler for a game as long as it is, which is quite something.
Yeah, it does sound terrific.
It's really good. Really, I mean, it's really, really good. You can't go wrong. It's a Christmas game par excellence.
Right. Okay, my number one is, how about another game? How about another game that you're not going to have time to play but is amazing? Yeah. How about that, everybody? My number one is Tearaway on PlayStation Vita. Tearaway is fucking amazing. It is I've written a glorious, joyous, and endlessly inventive game, and it's quite clearly the best game on PlayStation Vita. If I'm not including certain download things or things that appeared in other places, you know, I love Velocity, like it's part of my family. But this is, I think it's pretty easy to say this is the best game on the Vita because it couldn't exist on anything else, quite simply. Now, you play as a little envelope, a walking envelope called Iota, or if you pick a female version, I think it's Ataway. I played as the boy. And the game's about 6 or 7 hours long, and it's just a really kind of uplifting story. It's a 3D platformer, essentially. And have you played this? Sorry.
I have. I've done half of it, more than half of it. Yeah. Okay. It's my number one also.
Oh, sorry. The whole game, it just had me absolutely grinning the whole way through. It's a level of creativity and inventiveness and sort of innovativeness that it just reminded me of how games used to make me feel when I was really young. And it was all the promise of Little Big Planet. It's made by Media Molecule, if you don't know what it is. All the promise of Little Big Planet's style and and craft and wit and charm, but in an actually fun game. I've managed to talk all about all of this without describing that everything in the game is made out of paper, and it's such an incredibly well realised world that I couldn't quite believe what I was looking at first. So you're walking along little bits of, you'll be walking through a wood, for example, and the trees everything's made out of paper. So you're walking over little bits of paper and they fold down as you touch them, and the leaves are made out of paper. And here's where it starts to get really clever, because this is where it starts to use the Vita's technology. So, say quite early on you might meet a squirrel, and he's sad because he wants a crown. So what does the game do? Puts some card and some scissors in front of you and a pencil, and you can draw your own crown and make it out of different bits of paper like you used to when you were a kid. Whack that into the game. It's a really easy interface, and suddenly the squirrel's got the crown that you made, and you can. Yeah. I mean, it's just ideas like that the whole time. And I must say, another thing that happens, because it's using everything that you can possibly use on the Vita, all sparingly, but using everything. The first time that I put my finger through the back of the machine to burst through the paper in the world and move. It like manipulate stuff in the world. It just kind of like, that's fucking brilliant. That's ingenious. Multiple times the whole story is about Iota / Etoy and the you is you, the player. The game's constantly looking at you through the camera, and your face appears in the sun. Yeah. There was no point that I saw my face in the sun that didn't make me laugh.
Exactly.
Stupid dumbass face, gulping at myself in the sun. No point did that not make me laugh. There are points in the game where do you think it might run out of ideas, and this is a game of ideas, but it never does. There's always got something new to throw at you. Personally, by the time I got to the end of this game, I was like, that was one of the best experiences I've ever had playing a game. I'm not saying it's one of the best games I've ever played, just saying like there was not a minute where I wasn't enjoying myself. There is combat where you fight these little boxy things called scraps. That's the weakest part of the game, but it's fine. You kind of dodge them, pick them up, throw them at each other. It never really outstays its welcome that much. There's a bit where it goes on a tiny bit too long. But I mean, it's fine. But apart from that, it was just one idea after another of ideas that you've just never seen in anything else. Like I said, all the promise that Little Big Planet had. Little Big Planet is an amazing piece of software, a mind-blowing piece of software that I never actually found that much fun. I did make a level in it. If you've still got the first one, check out the Malevolence of the Balloon King. It's all right. But yeah, I made Xeno made amazing levels in that game, but I'm not wired that way. I'm wired to play a game like Tearaway, which has all that, but puts it in a proper game. And the best thing of all, it's £20. That's amazing. It's £20. This game could easily be full price. Other games on Vita are 35, 40 quid, and this game's 20 quid. That just shows to me, as much as anything else, as much as you were talking about it with Ratchet as well, that Sony are on the fucking ball at the moment, man. That they're releasing this game at 20 quid. They could easily put this game out at full price and nobody would batter an eyelid. Nobody would ever, if I played this game and found out it was $39.99, I wouldn't have even thought about it. I'd just been like, okay, that's just the price of the game, and just talked about the game. But the fact that it's 20 quid, that's what elevates it for me from a 9 to a 10 or a 9.5 to a 10, because they want people to play this game.
I didn't know that until earlier today that it was £20. I had no idea. I assumed it was full price, and it would be worth every penny at full price. £20.
I know.
If you have a Vita, you have to pay it. That's so completely, absolutely bang on the money. What you said. Every single time they'd look up and look, because basically your face is in the shape of the sun. So every time you look up, your face is just there, and it's not a photograph. It's the camera live looking at you. So you immediately put a face like, and I always fucking cracked up.
It's always funny.
Yeah, it is always funny. But I love the simplicity of it, and it's a game that I could recommend to anybody. There's even at the beginning when you're doing that sort of very, very straightforward. There's those boxes. What are they called?
Scraps.
And you're one of the first things that happens is that one of them comes in and is like, oh, dodge him, I thought immediately this game, which is so perfect and so simple that anybody could pick it up, you're probably going to ask me to do some sort of parry mechanic, or I'm going to have to do. You don't. You just move around it. You wait for him to pounce, and then you move around. I was like, perfect. Also, something that I'm certain my girlfriend will do when she plays this, and I like to think that a lot of younger people playing it will do. Every time when you walk around the world, everything's really colourful, but occasionally you happen upon these things that are just white. And if you take a snapshot, because the Vita doubles as a camera in the game, if you take a snapshot, that's sort of teleported to somewhere where you can download papercraft plans that literally print out and make those things out of paper origami. Incredible. The best thing that I think about this game, and I haven't completed it, I think I'm beyond the halfway mark, quite far beyond the halfway mark, because it says that I've done 50%, but that's because I've been doing all the side stuff. Is that you feel like you're careening through it, that you're freewheeling, that all of the normal things when I walk to a certain point in the game and I think, okay, I need to go back and check here and I need to go back and see that I haven't missed anything. And it is a game of, at the beginning it'll say, here's the stuff to find. You can find this, you can find that. But at the same time, it's like that bit fairly near the beginning when you jump on the back of that pig and he just races through the world and you're just jumping through. And I'm just like, it's so difficult what they've done. They've stopped you from worrying about stuff, because every game that I play, I feel like this. You're well aware of things that you've left behind and secrets that you may have found, but you just kind of fly through this, and you let it take you by the hand, and you just go wherever it wants you to take you. I think key to that is because I know damn well I will play this more than once.
Yes.
Playing through, I mean, how long did you say it was?
It's about 6 or 7 hours. It was surprising because I knew it was 20 quid, and the production values were so good straight off the bat. Like almost the best I've seen in many ways in terms of how long it must have taken to make everything. I just thought it might end up being like 2.5 hours long, and that's why it was 20 quid. But no, it's a decent length. I think it's longer than the latest COD game.
Yeah, but I'm. There, I think that does say something about it. The whole time I was playing it, and the whole time you do kind of get dragged off wherever it wants to take you. I just think I don't have to worry about this because I do know, part of me does know that I will play this more than one time.
There was one bit late on, very late on in the game, there are parts where you have to, you don't have to, but you find presents which give you confetti, which is the currency of the game that allows you to buy shit that you can stick on your guy, basically. Or, that's what it is. So you go off and find little secret areas and there'll be a present you can open with your thumbs. It feels nice every single time you do it.
Yeah, it does.
There was one bit where I just, right towards the end of the game, I just sauntered around a corner just assuming that there'd be a present there. And it was a one-off idea. Just blew my mind. I don't want to spoil it because people will find it for themselves. Never appears again in the game, just a one-off. You wouldn't even know it was there. And I was like, what the hell? I can't believe they just stuck this in the game for no reason. That sums up Tearaway for me. It's just, everything about it is just almost flawless. Yeah. And so full of love. But it was never cloying or kind of too whimsical, because I don't really like stuff like that. It has that about it, but everything's kind of funny, and snarky is not the right word, but it takes the piss. There's a bit really early on where you have to chuck. You don't have to, but you can chuck the paper balls through the basketball hoops, and every time you do it, this little trumpet goes like "ha," and then the last time you do it, it's like a kid who's done it and he can't do it properly. He goes "ha ha." That's the humour that it manages, and they'll just. It's actually a similar sense of humour to Little Big Planet, but a truly terrific game, and the first game that I'd say is a genuine system seller for Tearaway. They've already done the pack-in; it's out there now. It was going for 140 quid, I think. That also came with the Vita version of Little Big Planet. That's a terrific deal. And I can see, hopefully with the TV spots and everything else, I can see this being something that kids want to play and see and just want to experience, because it is like nothing else. And Medium Molecule, man. What the hell are they? How did they make this?
I don't know, but if you are worried about, because Little Big Planet was something that I had the most tremendous amount of admiration for, but I thought the platforming was a little bit. It felt like the most half-baked aspect of the entire experience. But this has there's no aspect of Tearaway that I think is in any way half-baked, and I haven't finished it yet. I'm convinced that I'm towards the back end of it. Yeah. But it feels like it's like all great video games in that once it's run out of things to show you, it just stops.
It does.
I can't, because I haven't stopped being shown things. I'm just like, I've laughed plenty, I've smiled almost non-stop, and I've thought that's so goddamn cool repeatedly. But I'm sure that the second that stops happening, the game's just going to end.
It does. I tell you what, it kind of does exactly what you said. It just constantly shows you things, and then by the time it comes to this like amazing pitch perfect ending, a thing happens, it's wonderful, and then it ends and it's done, and then you can go and find secrets or whatever, but it's done, and all it does is leave you wanting more, because that's what I was doing when I was playing. It's like, I don't want this to end, but I never want it to start repeating itself too much, and it never does. Exactly. And honestly, the what happens at the end is so good that I just wanted to immediately get in a car and drive to Guildford and just shake the hands of everyone who works for Medium Molecule, and I can't even drive.
Yeah, it's one thing. I touched upon it, but the way that you're essentially it's almost like one of those games that's on rails, but it's not. You can take side digressions if you want. But the way I was kind of moving through as if I was being guided, and that's something that must be so difficult, because everybody is pre-programmed who plays video games to say, I need to go check that out, I need to go and check that out. I lost all of that. And I can't, you said it, I said it, I can't understand it enough. Every time there's a cutscene and they say, ugh, and they flick back and it's a cutscene with the sun with your fucking face in it. I really did laugh my fucking head off because it's not a photograph. It's you going, and you pull stupid face. It's a terrific game. I haven't even finished it yet. I'm sure I'm by the end, but God. Yeah. And the fact that it's £20 is just well done. You have no business owning a Vita if you don't buy this game.
Yes, I'll go along with that. 20 quid. And it just, that to me, along with the marketing of the PS4, which is marketing, it may not be true, but fuck me, they've nailed it. Especially with the advert with all the kids in the room. It's basically like an advert of me being a kid. That plus putting this out for 20 quid, I just think like they are putting every foot in order. Brilliant sentence. So fucking hell, that's why I don't work for them. They're just nailing it at the moment, and I'm pumped to see what the PS4 actually is when I get my hands on it and I can talk critically about it. But you know, they don't seem like the same company that they were 7 years ago whenever the PS3 came out. They seem like that was a bunch of missteps, and then ever since PS Plus came out, ever since PS Plus became the thing with the Instant Game Collection, it just seems to be like the whole attitude is just completely shifted, and everything that they're doing just seems suddenly right and makes sense and is really clever. And that this just is another example of that for me.
I mean, it's something else.
Yes,
but
there you go. Well, that was both our number ones. Please get it. I mean, we weren't able to talk about Zelda, but talk about a week for handhelds, that and Tearaway out on the same day. Yeah, that's nuts. So thanks very much for listening. As always, it's been probably our longest episode. It's got to be up there. We said before before we started we were gonna try and rattle through this one quickly. So sorry, or you might like it, or whatever. Remember to check out the YouTube channel, because there's so much content on there these days. Chet works his fucking ass off on that, and it's very good. Some of it's just clips of this with videos, so it's cool if you want to see the games that we're talking about. Some of it's bespoke content, some of it's Battlefield content. It's really good. Check us out on Twitter at John Denton, at Chet Roivus, at Chet and Johns, and Facebook and all that bollocks. Don't worry about that. And we will catch you on the flip side. Next week it's going to be Xbox One talk. Week after PS4 talk. So all action. Too many games. We'll see you soon. Peace out.
Big up the Xbox One by Tearaway. Check it out. Genuine.
Good review, doo-doo-doo. Bad review, doo-doo-doo. Good review, doo-doo-doo. Bad review, doo-doo-doo.